I'm dying.
All right.
Welcome to the ward.
The
Hello,
ward.
the ward.
The ward.
I think you just did. Yes, I am currently studying to be a clinical psychologist. I do want to preface everything I'm going to say with I'm still a student. I do have a few psychological interviews and diagnoses under my belt, but um, nice. But I am still learning, so of course, feel free to look up things that I say. I do my best to answer to the best of my knowledge, but there is the possibility I may say something slightly incorrect.
I don't know what any of it's like.
No, it's not. No, the reason he wants to learn is to figure out if he's the freak.
Maybe, I guess. Yeah, I don't know shit about mental health because, like, I've never been to therapy, and I don't think I feel like I have anything, but I don't know.
Have I been like that the whole time?
Because you're professional.
Yeah.
I'm literally sitting here with broken ribs and.
Oh,
you're-
shut
They're
up!
not fucking broken.
There you are.
They're
Yeah.
not broken.
Well, could you not hear me the whole time, right? We'll just you could hear everybody else though. So, two of us are somewhat mentally ill, and welcome to the second episode of the podcast. Ryan's not well. Ryan doesn't know if he's mentally ill because he's never been to therapy, and
I think so.
he wants a grasp. So yeah.
I mean, in general, if most people have enough self-awareness to know something is wrong. I mean, there's some people that are really arrogant or narcissistic that don't think there's anything wrong with them, but
Yeah,
of
true.
the interactions I've had with Ryan, he doesn't seem that way. So, I mean, there are people that don't have disorders out there. There's just a lot of
Yeah.
people that do.
Yeah. Some people are just fucking. I don't know what to call it. That's not like offensive. I don't want to say
Why
normal.
offensive?
I don't want
You
to
know,
say normal because like people with problems, they're still normal people.
Am I not
I
normal?
like using. No,
What
you're
did I
not,
just
Nate,
say?
but
What did I just say?
Yeah, you know what?
I like to use the term mentally fit because you can have someone who's physically fit, right? And they're in good shape and good health and they're not
Well,
having those kinds
yeah,
of problems.
I guess I'm in good mental health.
Yeah.
Well, you think you are.
At least I think I am.
So, we've got some questions, but before we dive into the questions, I suppose, Tempren, as you said, you're a student clinical psychologist. That's what you're going for.
Mhm.
How long do you have to study? Like, how long do you have to be in school to?
To graduate fully, it's usually about 8 to 10 years. You have to get an undergrad and then you have to spend 2 years in a master's program and then your doctorate, depending on if you're going for a PsyD or a PhD, can be 2 years if you're going PsyD, and then 4 to 5 if you're doing a PhD. The difference between a PsyD and a PhD is that a PsyD is more practice related. So this is for someone who's wanting to get out there and immediately start seeing patients and clients and getting to work, whereas a PhD, you're going to be involved in research a whole lot more.
Okay, so can I ask which one is it that you're going for?
Yeah, I'm going after this year I will be in the master's program. and I still have about another 4 years, basically. I've been deeply involved in the clinical side of my university's psych program, and fortunately, they have a very good preclinical program, so I've been able to get practical experience without being, super far along.
Okay, so I suppose within your experience currently, like, what experience is it you've had? Like, have you went into appointments with, say, psychologists, or sat in or read reports, or was, like, when you say experience, like, what do you get for your experience? Like, what do you get to do for your experience, I suppose? Like, your work experience, I suppose you could call it.
So my experience so far has been, I've done 3 psychological interviews. 2 of them were with children to measure levels of development, to make sure that they were not having any abnormal responses, check for signs of neglect and abuse, that kind of a thing. Unfortunately, the 2 kids I interviewed were perfectly fine.
Nice.
And I've also done an interview with a older lady, and this is in regards to development later in life. Psychology is just now starting to kind of view early, midlife, and late life as different mental stages, because you develop differently based on what's going on. And
All right. Sorry to cut in, but someone's echoing Tempren really bad.
It might be me.
it's always Nate.
It might
I
be
caught
me.
that as well. I just ignored it.
Oh, you see, I can't
Alright.
hear it on my side, so I'll just...
Alright.
There you go. And aside from that, I've also done diagnoses on real cases, which was challenging, but I did well on them. So when I say I have some experience, I mean I have some clinical experience already. It's just not super extensive.
Okay. So, obviously, without going into, like, the details of what you've done, how was it interviewing the children? Like, were you more careful, or I suppose you sat in on one of the interviews, or did you conduct the interview, sorry?
I conducted the interviews, but I was supervised by faculty, basically.
Right, so, okay, then when it came to interviewing, like, say, the kids, they were young kids, I'm assuming, like, under the age of 13.
Yeah, one of them was 12 and the other was 4.
Fuck.
Yeah.
Because even then, like, with that level of kids, you have to be more careful of what you say, I suppose. Because you can say different things to a 12-year-old than what you can to a 4-year-old.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
So when you interviewed the kids, did they already have like trauma, or were they just kids that were picked?
They were kids picked from a pool where their parents had already agreed to let them be interviewed, and so the probability of running into a kid with trauma was probably going to be low, because any parent that's abusing their kid is not going to volunteer for that kind of thing.
Yeah, right.
But
Sadly.
it was mostly for me to get experience about how to speak to children and what kind of questions to ask and that sort of thing.
All right.
So, when you interviewed the kids, like, what was going on in your brain personally? Like, when you were, like, conducting the interviews, what was going on in that head?
Well, well, like you said, Nate, it's kind of different when you're speaking to an older child versus a younger child. When I was talking to the 4-year-old, you're more kind of trying to get them to open up to you. A 12-year-old is probably just going to answer straightforward questions unless they're very, very shy. A 4-year-old kid, they're very young. They have a lot of energy. You kind of have to keep them directed. So most of my thoughts interviewing the younger child was keeping them on task, and intervening with play when necessary, because younger kids sometimes need play in addition to the interview to get all of the information you need. And with the older kid, it was pretty straightforward. There's some questions you can't ask them that you would ask an adult, but from like a practical point of view, it's not too much different from interviewing an adult.
That's quite interesting. Because, so, gonna get about me because I'm selfish and this is partly my podcast. I have BPD. And when I first told Tempren I had BPD, he was kind of like, okay, and how do you feel about it? And I was like, I don't know what it do. Like, I don't know what it is. And he goes, what do you mean you don't know what it is? And I was like, it never got told. And I suppose when we were talking about mental health, like, briefly in the last episode, it was kind of, like, explained to me in chat and with Nerdy that, like, a psychological interview happens, like an introduction interview. But in Ireland, that's not a thing. And it's weird that it's not a thing. I would definitely say that, because now that, like, it's how you get to know somebody.
Like, yeah, I agree. The whole purpose of an intake interview, right, is so that the psychologist or the therapist can get a clearer picture of their patient. Because you can look at someone's records and it will give you information, but it always helps to interview them, because then you can put the information into context. If you're dealing with, like, say, someone who has paperwork that says they're a narcissistic pathological liar, right? Well, how are you going to know that unless you actually test it? You look in their file for information that you can see if you can get them to lie about it. And then if they lie, you know that that's true. The whole purpose of intake interviews is to confirm or deny information that you read in records.
Okay. So, what I noticed, I guess, is last episode you said something that kind of made me curious, because, like, I know that there's many different, like, variants or varieties of BPD. You said I was textbook BPD, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And I suppose, like, as somebody who's learning about this stuff, what is textbook BPD to you?
So, textbook BPD is generally people who have a self-focus, and that self-focus is because they have what they feel are tenuous relationships with other people. They attach to people quickly, and they detach from people quickly because they always feel like their relationships are threatened. Very minor events can make someone who has BPD think that they've lost a friend or a girlfriend or a deep relationship with a parent, any number of these things. And when they feel threatened, they seek attention from either those people or other sources of comfort that they have. If you're not getting comfort from, say, your best friend, well, you'll go look for someone else that's a friend to get attention from.
Yeah, fair enough. Can't argue with that. I am an attention whore.
And I mean, it is more complex than that, but those are the main, like, social symptoms of a person with BPD.
Major attachment issues, and also, like,
right.
I suppose a struggle to keep actual relationships, like, not even just romantic, like friend ones or anything.
Oh yeah, like that. No, it's not just romantic; it's relationships in general.
Relationships are difficult. Fucking hard, sir.
Right. Like, and if you have BPD, they're more difficult because, with BPD, you're constantly fighting your brain about, oh man, I've really fucked this up. This person's never going to speak to me again. And, you know, in most cases, that's not true. But you do run the risk of burning out goodwill with people. There are cases of BPD where people are unwilling to change their sorts of behavior, right? Like these patterns of behavior that they keep going through. And eventually, when the people that are trying to help them run out of patience for it, that's when people with BPD find themselves really being abandoned. And then, you know, they fall back into that same pattern, but worse, because now their fears have been confirmed. But it's more of a self-fulfilling prophecy than it is their BPD having been right all along, if that makes sense.
So, from what I've told you about the way that Ireland treats mental health, and from what you've heard probably myself and Roy bitch about at times, do you think that Ireland has the proper methods or facilities to try and help, say, these issues, not even just BPD, but say depression, anxiety, stuff like that?
Right. Purely from what I know, which I have to admit is only, you know, what I've heard from you and Roy. You know, I can't speak for the whole system because I'm not terribly familiar with it. But if the practices that you two have experienced are kind of the norm, then that system is very unprepared to help people.
You think there should be like an international standard for how this, like, how mental health is treated, or even
I do.
like the methods? I really think there should be. I'm surprised that
I
there
do.
isn't.
Yeah. And part of that is because a lot of mental health issues fall in the realm of psychology, right? And
Right.
psychology, most of the studies are based on Western civilization, so America and Europe. And not all of those principles apply to everyone in the world. Different cultures cause different sorts of psychological phenomena, and
True.
until we have a better understanding of exactly what is the gold standard for every person, regardless of culture, it's going to be harder to make a sort of guideline. But I do think we need one.
I think that, like, because I've been in therapy since I was 13, and now at the age of 19, in November was the first time I ever met a psychologist. I got diagnosed with BPD at 16.
Right.
And there was clear that there was trauma, like, that I've experienced in life. Because, like, my folder about this big, like, the folder they give to the therapists. Because I've been through that, like, this is one of them, this is the most recent one, but, like, I've had, like, 3 before. It was, like, when they told me, oh, you're gonna meet a psychologist, I was like, oh, cool. What for? Because, like, it didn't really click that that's what I kind of needed to talk to, because psychologists just put it really blunt, but in a soft way kind of deal. They're like, yeah, you're fucked up, but it's not that bad, it can be fixed. But psychiatrists kind of, like, beat around the bush a lot, I feel. That's what I think anyway, but I could be wrong.
The thing with psychiatry, right, is, like, they are trained in psychology just like a psychologist is, but they also have the added responsibility of being a medical doctor. So when you see a psychiatrist, the first resort's probably going to be medication. And some mental disorders respond very well to medication. Depression, anxiety, ADHD, a lot of those things can respond very well to medication. And others, BPD, PTSD, some of those are a lot harder to deal with solely with medication. And some people, the medication doesn't help them at all. Um, for those people, the therapeutic approach is the best one, but they have to be willing to make the changes that are proposed in therapy. CBT and DBT are the most common methods of treating a variety of illnesses, and it requires a lot on the patient's part to work through the problems that they're having. And there's that old joke that most people know, it's like how many psychologists does it take to change a light bulb, right? Well, the light bulb has to want to change. And there's kind of a there is a truth to that, because if you have a patient that's not willing to do the work, they're not going to get better.
You mentioned DBT there.
Mm-hmm.
I did DBT at 14. It was a 17-week program, which isn't your typical 34-week program.
Right.
But, I hated it.
What is that? What is that?
So it's dialect behavioral therapy, and
Dialectical.
Yeah, dialectical, and CBT is cognitive.
Correct.
Where it gets into your brain kind of deal. Where it's like, you know how in some crime shows you'll have like cognitive interviews where they kind of go that you close your eyes and you gotta do blah blah blah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so DBT is like, oh, you're given skills, use these skills in situations. And the thing for me is, when I'm at a low or I'm in a situation, I am not gonna sit there and think, because that's not what I do. I'm not a thinker. I'm impulsive. And they're like, you gotta use dear man or stop or anything like that. And I'm like, but when I'm in the moment, I can't think. And while I was in the ward, they were kind of like, oh, you're going to do DBT again. I looked at them, I was like, no, I'm not. They're like, yeah, you are. You didn't give it a proper try. You were 14, you were too young. I was like, yeah, but 14-year-old me and 19-year-old me are still the same impulsive person. We might have changed a little bit, but the impulsivity is worse now. It's not gonna help. I said I would try CBT, right? But like, I'm starting that in January when I'm meeting another psychologist, because they kind of clocked on that shit, maybe he needs a psychologist kind of deal.
And I think they're right on that front. You do need a psychologist, one that's willing to listen to you. But that's part of what I'm getting at is when you receive CBT and DBT, they require work, and the people that can't do the work or won't do the work don't get better. And if you don't have a good response to medication, then you have no other way to control or manage your symptoms. Personally, I went through PTSD, and it was due to a very difficult illness, one that almost killed me, actually. I had sepsis, and I was in the hospital for, I think, 2 weeks. And when I came out, it took me physically about 6 months to recover. They don't really tell you that a widespread inflammatory response in your body kind of fucking wipes you out. And you have to have time to recover and rebuild strength and work your way back up to functioning normally. And I didn't know that, so it was very difficult for me, especially because I want to do everything myself kind of person. So I kind of had to fall back on letting my wife do things for me. And I'm just really uncomfortable with that notion of people doing shit for me.
We love you, Mrs. Temp. Shout out to Mrs. Temp.
She's out there watching something, I don't know what. But
I love you.
And then, after the physical recovery, anytime I would go into a sterile environment, didn't fucking matter where. It could be a doctor's office, it could be a psychologist's office, it could even be the fucking vet. If it was a sterile environment, it would cause a physical response in me. Like my heart rate would skyrocket. My resting heart rate's usually around 80, and anytime it was measured in the doctor's office, it was like 130. Um, and it was only through 8 weeks of CBT and following it religiously, even though I was like, man, I don't want to fucking do this. It was ultimately what let me get better. I still have, every now and then I have a bout of anxiety about a doctor's visit or whatnot. But I went from being fully uncontrolled PTSD symptoms to about 95% controlled.
And like your 6 week program, was that once a week or was it multiple times a week?
It was 8 weeks and it was once a week
So
for 8 weeks.
what? And CBT helps you because like that was actually going to be one of the questions I asked you before we got into the ones that was asked for all of us.
Yeah.
I was going to
It helped me a lot.
Yeah.
I had probably the most unpleasant social symptom I had was I would have anger outbursts, right? And it would be about stupid shit, like things that don't matter. And it was my wife that was like, you're not normally mad about these kinds of things. There's something wrong. And that was what prompted me to like seek out a psychologist. And then um, I went through the CBT program and it helped me a lot.
So what drove you to want to become a psychologist?
Yeah, I was thinking of asking that too. I'm curious.
Um, so I don't want to say exactly who because just for their
Yeah, no,
privacy,
obviously not. It's
but
just the premise
I
kind of deal.
I have a very close family member who had undiagnosed schizophrenia from about age 5 until 18 when it was eventually diagnosed. And I watched this person kind of suffer a whole lot and be treated differently, and it was just due to this illness that no one realized what was going on, right? And once it was finally diagnosed, a lot of their behavior started making more sense. And my pretty much my whole family has mental health problems on both sides. And a lot of mental health disorders do have a hereditary component to them. You can't blame it all on your genes. There's a couple exceptions to that, but for the most part, mental illness is a product of both your genes and your environment.
So, like, I suppose, like, were you a teenager?
Yeah, I was probably, well, maybe a little bit older. I think I was probably around 20 when I was really starting to seriously consider this. And I spent a lot of time fucking around in other jobs, and
Yeah, because you
it
went to
got,
college once and then left, right?
yeah, I did. And it was Kat actually found I can't remember exactly. It was some sort of career thing that she did, right? And she's like, "Oh, I'm just going to do this and see what it says." And every result that she had something to do with animals, and that is her as a person. She loves animals. She doesn't like to see them hurt. She will do anything, like, she'll fucking stop the car if there's a turtle in the road to get it out of the road, kind of a deal.
Oh, I
Same. I
love
do
And
that though.
I
Same.
love your wife, man. Your wife is such an amazing lady.
and so, I was like, well, this seems pretty accurate for her. Why don't I give it a shot? And so I do it, and like they give you like a top 5 list, right? And then, things that are maybe not as close for you. My top 10 things all had to do with psychology and counseling. And I looked at it and I was like, something's trying to give me a fucking sign here. So I'll give it an honest shot. And it's been going well since then.
And like you're obviously like really enjoying college too because you're a TA. Is that it? Teaching
Yeah,
assistant? Yeah.
yeah. And
And
I also
you tutor,
tutor
yeah.
off on the side, and I've started doing essay grading, but that's like contract work.
But like,
Not a lot of personal stuff involved there.
no, it's essays like, but you obviously like really enjoy the path you're on, and considering like say if I say me or Emerald were upset, you'd always do your best to try and like help us get to the root of the problem and stuff. Even when we
Yeah,
were convinced that we were just upset for nothing.
and when you look at behavior, right? There's almost always a root cause. Like most people are not good at understanding why they do something. They know they do something, and they might know that it's harmful or not good for them, but they don't get why. And it's because we're not taught that, right? I feel like in some places in the US it is part of the curriculum, but I don't know about in Europe or in Ireland specifically. But I think that general psychology, just like the 101 kind of course, should be involved in um, high school curriculums. I think it's important for people to understand more about their emotions and where they come from.
Yeah, I had it in high school. Psychology? Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's a pretty good class.
So there is like I think 3 colleges near where I live, so near my high school, and I know for sure one of them doesn't have psychology as an option because when the one that I went to before I dropped out there, it was when I was up trying to figure out what course I wanted to do. So it was like the end of summer. I was like, I don't know what I want to do, and I was like in the careers office, and I was like, how's it going? They're like, what do you want to do? I was like, I want to be a lawyer, but I can't do law yet. They're like, okay, what do you want to do? I was like, well, is there a psychology course? No. Is there like any type of thing like that? No. You could do this thing, it's like a 6 week program. No, I don't want to do that. So I ended up going with business because there's an interest in business, but like not a big interest. It's just I wanted to do something. I wanted to go back, wanted to have something to do. But
Right.
the thing they were trying to teach us there was the same shit I got in high school. And keep in mind I dropped out of high school too.
Mm-hmm.
So I think the curriculum in Ireland I think is shit. And I have been saying this since I started high school. Back when I was 13. They should teach more. Like we have SPHE classes, which is social I don't know what it stands for. But it tried teaching certain things. So like when it came to stand up week in November, we would have our SBHE class about the LGBT. You'd have your sex ed talk in that class.
Mm-hmm.
You'd bullying all that kind of stuff, if you know what I mean.
Right.
And
Yeah.
I don't think it was one class a week for 40 minutes, and the teachers teaching it didn't have the qualifications to teach like anything other than that because it would be your form tutor or your lecturer, I suppose, or your main lecturer, and that's who would teach the SPHE, so it would change every year. I think if Ireland could, because we need shit about taxes, like we need to learn how to live out of school, because
I feel like there's a distinct lack of like
the real world,
Yes.
the
Yes.
real
life
world.
skills
It
in
definitely
school.
is.
There should be classes that teach you about budgeting, about how to do your taxes, about what retirement is, and this kind of shit. But most first world countries don't have that shit at all. And I understand the purpose of some classes. Like a lot of people have issues with math. I don't like doing math, but I understand that the purpose for it is to help you learn to think in a logical, linear manner. And a lot of
Right.
people can't do that. Which is why it's important that people should learn math, because it gives you a pattern of thinking to follow when you run into other problems in life.
One like topic in math they teach that I think is good is like C for taxes, like, or not even like your gross pay, your net pay, so the kind of taxes, but that's only in math and it's only a short topic, and it's the same for VAT or VAT. But I suppose in like European countries that shouldn't matter as much because our VAT is automatically included, but in America, that's like, because I remember one of my friends went to America to visit, and they're like, "Oh, I seen these AirPods, and I bought myself AirPods, and instead of 120 something or something when I bought them, so I went up to the thing, I had 120 out, and then they're like, oh, it's gonna be an extra like $40 in taxes, and they're like, oh shit, I forgot they don't do that here. So I just feel like schools, because even when it comes to mental health, there's no counselors in school. If you have an issue, you have to go to the career teacher or the guidance counselor, which the guidance counselor doesn't really know what they're doing, because I know I spent many hours in a guidance counselor's office, and I left feeling worse because I was missing class, and they made you feel bad about missing class.
I'm going to refrain from commenting on guidance counselors just because of my personal feelings on.
They've always been useless in my schools. Absolutely useless.
Yeah. I don't think that they are particularly trained well. And there's not really a standard for who can be a guidance counselor and who can't, which is really inappropriate to me.
My school just elected a new guidance counselor every couple of years.
Wow.
Out of all the teachers.
Yeah,
Really?
wow. That's all I can say to that.
Wow.
Wow.
And
I mean, you could have gone and picked a hobo off the street and probably gotten the same result. Although they might have been more like, have you tried drugs or pissing on the carpet? But
have you tried this ketamine?
You go down the K-hole, it'll fix everything for you. Don't worry. But like here in the States, there are some districts, right, that have school psychologists. So these are people that are licensed to be conducting therapy and doing diagnoses and things like that. But the problem is we are at a critical mass of a shortage of school psychologists, and it's because the average pay, well, not the average pay, the median pay is around 50 grand a year. And for someone that has to get a master's level education, that's horseshit money.
Yeah, that's dog shit for a master's degree. Holy shit.
So people are not willing to do that because you can go into clinical and make 33 to 50% more. Like, you go from the 50 grand range to between 70 and 100. And, it's for, in some states, it's for a master's level education, and in other states, it's for, a doctorate. But no one's going to want to go through all that schooling to make 50 grand a year. And that's part of our public education system just being kind of shit. But having that resource, I think, would be very beneficial to students. Teenagers live through a very uncertain and tumultuous time in their life. They're going through a lot of changes. They're dealing with a lot of things. And then if you throw mental health and actual disorders into the mix, well, now you're running into real problems. And those kids are not going to get through those problems by themselves. They should have a resource that's available and free to them to be able to conquer the things that they're dealing with. Or, if they're just going through standard teenager stuff, then, they have someone to turn to and speak with. Because therapy will provide some benefit even to someone who doesn't really have problems, but not everybody needs it. people that need someone to talk to, it benefits them a lot.
Yeah, 100%. So clinical psychology, I suppose, is it you're going to be working with like kids and adults, or is it you choose a certain side?
Well, in the beginning, you don't really get too much of a choice because as you're going through like your official clinical training, you just get whoever you get, right? You get put in a facility and you're supervised and you just do your hours and that's how it is.
He is not feeling too good, so he's gonna bow out for a bit.
Okay. And but aside from that, right, like after you have gotten through your clinical hours, you have more freedom to kind of pick and choose. A lot of states have different certifications for different age groups and things like that. A friend of a friend is uh, a clinical psychologist who went through a lot of extra training to become kind of a specialist for teenagers, and so they generally only work with people who are in the range of like 13 to 17, and they have very specialized treatments, but they do good work because they're focused on specific problems that tend to come up in that age range.
Yeah. Well, now that we've kind of went into that whole situation, do you just want to get into these questions that we were asked?
Yeah, that's fine with me.
Yeah, let's go for it.
Right. I'll do the reading out, I suppose.
All right.
Is overthinking a type of mental illness, and if why or why not?
So overthinking itself isn't really a mental illness. It could be a symptom of one. Overthinking
100%.
is generally related to anxiety. And the reason that is because overthinking is usually what in psychology we call a focus on future events. So if you're future focused, overthinking is a big deal. Like, if you have like a social faux pas, right? You're overthinking what you did because you're worried about how it's going to affect that relationship in the future. So the overthinking itself isn't a mental illness, but it can be a symptom of one.
So if you're to overthink, does that automatically mean that you might have anxiety, or is it just a common thing that everybody happens to experience?
It's not necessarily you automatically have some sort of anxiety disorder. It really depends on how disruptive and how frequently it happens. Like almost everyone experiences what you would think would be a symptom of mental illness at some point because most of these reactions are normal. It's the how often it happens and how disruptive it is to your life that really determines if it's mental illness or not. So, say you're overthinking almost every social interaction you have during a day, then I would say you probably want to make an appointment and be evaluated because you might have a anxiety disorder of some type. If this is happening to you when you make a particularly embarrassing mistake or once in a great while, then it's probably just overthinking because you fucked up.
Yep, definitely happened.
Every so often, I suppose. Or in Nate's case, nearly every fucking day. Okay.
I mean, I don't know, Nate. You just gotta learn to keep your foot away from your mouth.
Anyway. So when you're having a mental health episode, what are some of your tools to ground/calm yourself down? So I think this is more of a personal one for each of us. So we'll do
Okay.
Temp, Ryan, me.
Okay.
Right.
Okay.
So personally, I like doing mindfulness exercises. Um, Mindfulness, for anyone in the audience that doesn't know, is drawing your attention to the present moment. It's about drawing yourself away from whatever emotion you're feeling right at that time. Um, so say something happens and I get really angry, right? I have to be able to first recognize that I'm angry, which is the first thing you learn in mindfulness. And then, secondly, step back and examine my feelings from a more like logical standpoint and go, okay, I'm angry. This is why I'm angry. Now I'm going to take a moment to breathe and focus on just where I am right now and what I'm doing. Let myself feel what I'm feeling, and usually by that point, I will have calmed down. And mindfulness does wonders for people who feel anger, depression, anxiety. It's effective for all of those things, and so that's my go-to.
Okay.
All right. It's hard to explain for me because like I don't know when I'm having a fucking episode. Like when I'm feeling bad,
When
or
you're
I'm feeling shitty.
well, like when you're feeling down, I suppose, since you.
It's pretty easy for me. I just get some distractions going, or if it's like something where I can't distract myself, especially driving. Oh, I get so pissed when I'm driving. I'm usually my go-to is just I'm cracking fucking jokes myself. I find everything funny. It just it's probably coping, but it works. Like I could be in a terrible car accident. Realize if I'm not dead or missing fucking limbs, I'll probably be cracking jokes about it immediately. I don't know, that's how I get through my life.
Ryan wakes up from like a coma of like 6 months, being like, "Well, that's
Like,
inconvenient."
5 more minutes. That's probably the first thing I'd say. 5 more minutes.
God, you wake up
Like,
and
I
you're
don't really
like,
care.
you wake up and your nurse is just like, "Oh my God, he's awake." He's like, "No, I'll be back in 5 minutes." Just
I'll be
like,
back.
Who
I'd probably
won
ask
the World
what the.
Series?
Hey,
Oh, it
won
was
the
the
World Series?
Mets. I'm gonna go
Hey,
back to sleep.
fucking put me back to sleep, please.
Cameron didn't win the World Cup. Fuck that. Good night.
Fucking take me out. No, that's how I get through a lot of. I just don't care. Like I don't really care about a lot of things. If something shitty happens, I'm usually looking at the the positives. I mean, it could be worse. It
Positive
is what it
thinking
is.
is actually very helpful.
Yeah, I don't really stress about anything because it could always be worse, right?
It's
Yeah.
that's a mindset I need to get into, I suppose.
I
Like,
mean, if
Yeah,
you're not,
I could be stressing about fucking money or like my future. Like I could have it so much worse. There's people out there that have it way worse than I do. So what am I doing sitting here bitching about it? Just gonna do what I do.
yeah, I kind of view it as if you're not dead, you can fix it. So,
True.
so I suppose what I do for whenever I'm having an episode, because I go through different episodes, I can go through complete anger. And when I go through anger, I just kind of lay in bed. I have music on in the background, I just stare at the ceiling. When it's anxious, I suppose, I do this a lot with my hands. Because it distracts me. Because if I mess it up, I get really upset with myself. Or I do the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 coping mechanism, which is 5 things you can see. No, 5 things you can touch, 4 things you can see, 3 things you can hear, 2 things you can smell, 1 thing you can taste. Which and it really does get your mind off whatever you're anxious about, because you're sitting there being like, table, fluffy. And it's just you kind of just you go into a world of your own. But majority of the time when I'm sad, I do my best just to pretend that I'm not sad. And there will be days, there has been days where I've been like playing games, and like say with Tempren and Emerald, and they can tell I'm not myself, and there gets to a point where I just kind of mute myself on Discord and I go into the bathroom and I cry. And I come back.
Really?
Yeah, I've done it a couple times with you guys too, actually, where it's just
Really?
I try to distract myself but sometimes it gets so overwhelming I just go and cry. Because, like, I can't really cry that much. I don't cry that much. I'm not a very, that kind of emotional person. So, it's always when I'm, like, at my full breaking point is when I cry. So, like, that's what normally happens. But, like, I always just try to distract myself. Or if I'm, like, really in my feelings and, like, I'm in at the house alone and I'm just chilling, say, I'm driving in fucking GTA or killing people with Huntress on DBD, and there's a song playing in the background, I'll just fucking sing it at the top of my lungs because it's so freeing, I guess, because you're shouting, but you're not shouting anything bad, you're just singing a song, and it feels really good to get it out. Like,
Yeah, people need emotional outlets.
I have a few very bad. Like, I used to, whenever I was sad, I used to drink, and I've been working on that, and I'm doing pretty good with it. And self harm used to be a big one. Punching walls, just getting angry. Like, I used to lash out at everybody, and I suppose, like, you can't help when you lash out, but Jesus, I used to be very mean. Like, even when I used to play DBD, like, and that's a stupid fucking game. I used to be such an asshole. I used to be a toxic little fucker. If the game didn't go my way, I was gonna bitch out the end game chat. But now it's just like, okay, Nate, remember, you've been taught by your friends. Say GG's, move on. And
Literally that easy.
see, like, it's good because I stream it now as well, because even if, like, people I play against that I wasn't too happy about the game, I'll just say GG, and if they come into my chat, I'm like, yeah, you played well, I fucking sucked there, and you had me, and it's all a bit of growth, I suppose, at the end of the day, but, like, music's a good outlet, and reading too, actually, I find helps, but distractions mainly, you know what I mean? It's just, oh, I will just listen to music, or I will listen to Roy bitch about people wearing a CDL skin in Call of Duty. Like,
Or mysteriously breaking his ribs upon waking up.
I don't know what the hell's wrong with that, man.
I mean, the amount of times where I've been losing my shit in VC, and because of my desk, I hit my knee so much. An
I'm
awful.
surprised you have a knee left, to be honest, as long as I've known you.
Like, my left knee is so bad, but the amount of times where I've just been, like, absolutely losing my shit, and then I'll hit my knee, and I just start bitching about my knee then, and Tempren's just there, like, laughing his head off, because I went from telling somebody to go fuck themselves to being like, ah, my knee!
Total shift.
It switches like that, and I suppose, like, it's not good that I'm hitting my knee because it hurts, but I'm not doing it intentionally, and it makes other people laugh, and it's kind of what I thrive to do. I like making people laugh. I like being funny. So
It is a good feeling.
It
our,
is.
our next question is, what mental illness is it that you choose? What mental illness is it that you choose to work over spending time with people?
Do we have a little bit of clarification on that question?
I'm gonna look at that one.
It's the one by Pain.
What mental illness? I'm not sure if Payne is asking, like...
Is it a mental illness?
Oh yeah, okay. Now I'm understanding it more.
Oh, okay, I see
So
what
like,
they're asking.
yeah, like is like what mental illness would it be considered if you
Yeah,
choose to
yeah,
work
yeah, yeah.
over spending time with people on that
So-
grind set?
Yeah, so that may or may not be a mental illness. To me, that sounds more like a coping mechanism. Probably most people have heard of the term a workaholic. And if someone's a workaholic, they probably have something going on that's undiagnosed. Turning to work versus spending time with people and working through problems is a coping mechanism. You're avoiding the problem. It's an avoidant coping mechanism. And ultimately, it's not going to help you, and it's probably going to stress you out more. Most people that have that sort of mindset end up having more problems at work than it solves, unless you're working a very sort of, I guess, grindy, for lack of a better term, job, where the outcome's kind of predetermined. You just have to go in and meet a quota, or you have to go in and do these set objectives every day. Then if you're overworking yourself, you're probably dealing with something that you have not had diagnosed, and I would recommend going to see a doctor or a psychiatrist or a psychologist.
Because I've never felt that way. I I would choose spending time with people over anything. It's like the
No,
one thing I care about in this fucking world, just hanging out with friends.
I kind of get it. I personally, I hate spending time with people IRL, like, cause I'm always so just on edge, I suppose. But like, I could sit in VC for hours. I do sit in VC for hours.
I'd consider that same thing,
No, but I feel like
or at least close enough.
when you're spending time with people like in person, I suppose is you're normally just hanging out. But like, I could be in VC with you guys and still do work and stuff, or still do the things I'm meant to do. But in person, I suppose you don't always have that escape, unless it's like school or something. Then maybe, but I kind of get it. I kind of get it, because I know considering when I get there and be a lawyer, no matter what, I'll always put work first, probably, because like even when I had the fucking court case in the city, I put so much time into that out of city. Like, I was babysitting my nephews, and I was like obviously still watching them, but I was like typing up my court case and stuff.
Mhm.
And I feel like if I hadn't had to babysit my nephews and I was home, I probably would have even put more work into it, because typing on a phone on Google Documents isn't that great. But like, if I'm typing on my PC, I could be listening to music and I could just be going. So I kind of get it, but it just, I'm so sorry.
Oh, you're good.
I had school today. I'm tired. I feel like because I know what pain does for a job, and I'm pretty sure he doesn't have to meet a quota. He just has to make sure everything's done, kind of deal.
Mhm.
And I'm pretty sure he works with people, but when he's working, he's on his own. So maybe that's what he means, but
Gotcha.
I'm not 100% sure. Our next question, which I fucking love this question, and I have a big opinion on it. How do you feel about people using mental health as a trend and or a way to sell shit to people? Example, BetterHelp.
So my personal feelings on that are kind of complex. Um, I understand that they're making a market out of something because the availability is bad, but I don't like the way that it's done, because it is kind of selling mental health as a service, and I don't think it's a service.
It's a
I think it
necessity.
is. Yeah, exactly. So while BetterHelp existing is okay because it does help some people, I think it's the wrong way to approach the problem.
I have a very big opinion on this. So,
Okay.
if I go onto my phone, where will I locate this app? Hold on. I'm gonna just look up in my app library. BetterHelp. I have BetterHelp installed. And I filled out the form, everything. And I had a therapist selected for me. This is when, like, I was never seeing my doctor. And I feel like the way that it's promoted is wrong, because in what fucking world should there be use my name as a promo code to get like 10% off for your first like 2 months? Like, no, that's fucking bullshit.
I agree.
Because
Yeah.
BetterHelp charges like $200 a month, and that's it's a good service, but I don't feel like YouTubers or fucking Twitch streamers or anything like that should get a fucking promo code so you get money off of it, because it's so stupid. Like, you're putting
Kinda fucked up.
you're putting BetterHelp on the same fucking level as G Fuel, right?
Yeah, I don't disagree with you, Nate.
And
I don't.
Yeah, I don't either. That's fucked
like,
up.
obviously BetterHelp is doing a great thing. They're trying to help people because availability is fucking awful. But I know it's an American company, right? And I get that, like, money over there is different to what it is here.
Money is everything here.
Money happens to be everything in America, but $200 a month.
Yeah, that's fucking outrageous. Can that even be covered by insurance? I guess you wouldn't know.
I don't actually think that. I think it's specifically for people that don't have insurance.
But that's the thing. I feel like actual therapy, because it's in-person sessions, like BetterHelp, yeah, you can message your therapist, you can have video calls and you can text them and stuff like that, but
Video calls are actually becoming pretty common.
I love video calls. I would much rather have to video call a therapist than actually meet them in person, because I'm scared they're judging me. And, like, fair enough, if
A bad therapist might be judging you.
no, I know,
while
but
you're
it's
in
just
the room.
it's just the way my brain works, right?
Right. Well, let me put it this way, right? Like, therapists and psychologists are all human, and all humans judge people.
I mean, yeah,
But
when
the
I see my
the
psychologist, I was judging
Yeah.
his shoes.
The most successful therapists and psychologists save their judgment for when the patient is not in the room.
Like, TikTok is fucking horrible for putting mental health on a trend. I
fucking
swear-
hate TikTok.
I swear, every second fucker on my For You page has BPD.
Yeah.
And I'm like, hey, oh my god, same. Oh shit. But it's got to a point where it's like, right, who actually has BPD and who's just self-diagnosed themselves, and like, oh, you have hard time having relationships? Oh, you must have BPD. Like, no, that's commitment issues as well.
Or you're just an asshole.
But, like, people are romanticizing mental health.
Yeah, and they've been doing it for a while.
Since social
it's
media
dangerous.
Since social media has become a big thing, like, this is gonna, like, throw back, but do you remember, like, absolutely years ago on Twitter, there was a hashtag cut for Justin?
Oh my god, yes!
wow.
I remember that shit.
Yeah, that's fucked.
And then, like,
I hadn't.
even
Go
the
ahead.
Blue Whale game. Oh, you're sick of your life, you want to play a fun game. Oh, you're gonna have to take yourself out at the end of it. Like, obviously that's a completely different scenario, but the fact that there was people who online willingly made YouTube videos about that shit, like, obviously talk about it, but that should be shit for the news, not a YouTube video where somebody has, like, sponsors on it making money off of it, because that is people's tragedies. That is somebody who has been tricked because their mind played a game that they weren't ready for, because they thought, oh, you know what, it's just a game, it's online, nobody's going to be able to figure anything out, and then bam, this hacker has your address, everything. It's just, social media is so bad when it comes to mental health, because there's people romanticizing fucking eating disorders, but you're also going to get judged if you have an eating disorder but aren't underweight.
Yeah, see, that's kind of one of the issues of social media in general, right? Is any viewpoint you can think of, and not even limiting itself to mental illness, but speaking in that realm, right? Um, you can go to a forum about a disorder and meet like-minded people, and then everyone can convince each other that they just can't do things. Well, I have this, therefore I can't do this. And that's not really true. There are some mental illnesses that are more debilitating than others, and there are varying degrees of them. But for the vast majority of people that have a mental illness, they can be overcome to the point that you can live a functional and happy life. It is all dependent on A, the willingness to absorb the information about your illness so that you understand your own emotions when they occur, and being willing to work through that. Because it's difficult. I'm not going to sit here and say that learning to cope with, like, schizophrenia, for instance, is a easy thing to do. You have to usually be medicated, you get therapy, and if it's not severe enough, then you can live a relatively normal life. But getting to that point is going to require a lot of work. And it's just easier to go on social media and say, oh, well, I have schizophrenia, so I can't do this.
It's the same levels as social media has really fucked up everything. If you go on Twitter,
I
if you
fucking despise it.
if you go on Twitter and look up self-harm, there is pages upon pages of people posting their self-harm. And Twitter doesn't ban it.
They should, too.
It
Realistically,
really should.
Twitter would ban fucking, corn. But like corn accounts where people post stuff on Twitter, but not ban self-harm photos or accounts that post self-harm photos.
Well,
Like,
it's because companies just care about money, right? So even if a subject is taboo, right? If it draws enough clicks and ad revenue, they're not going to give a fuck. They
No,
don't
they're not
care.
gonna give one shit.
well then realistically,
money
why
off
are
of
they banning corn?
Because that's seen as a morality issue. It's okay to let people cut themselves because that gets attention, but you can't appear to support something that's very controversial. And
Hell yeah, what will the advertisers think?
yeah, exactly.
Like,
Whereas, self-harm, Walmart doesn't care if you cut yourself. They just care if you go in there and buy shit.
they don't care if you cut yourself. They all they want is you to go in and buy their razors.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Like, I feel like everybody who owns a social media platform should really work on this shit, because it's completely bullshit in my opinion, that you can do this and that, but hey, use my fucking promo code to go get like 10% off fucking BetterHelp.
Gosh, that shit is
It's-
just like, come on, man. Really?
Yeah.
The way that they're pricing it makes it seem like it's a fucking luxury to get therapy. You want help?
Yeah.
It's a luxury, $200 a month. When people who are seeking the help, if they had money to begin with, would they not go to an actual therapist?
No, I think you're right.
And like that's why
And-
I love this question, because we all spend a lot of time on social media. Clearly, we all spend a lot of time on Discord, and as much as we hate to say it, it is technically a social media.
It is technically social media.
But
Yeah.
the thing is, on Discord, you choose what you see.
Yep.
Well,
It's like how Snapchat used to be. It's a very closed social media, I feel, because
Oh man, I miss old Snapchat.
old Snapchat, you wouldn't get Like,
Discovery bullshit.
yeah,
It's...
no, we're not getting into it.
We're not getting there. No, another time.
Social
Another
media
time.
for a different episode, right? But
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I just wish that people online really understood that romanticizing mental illnesses that people live with and that they can't get away from, but you're sitting romanticizing it on the internet to get views, likes, or follows is unfair. Because, like, I wouldn't wish anybody to have to deal with what I deal with on a daily basis. I wake up in the morning, first thing I do is take my meds. Last thing I do before I go to sleep, take my meds. Have you taken your meds today? Mm-hmm. Has your nurse called you today? No. Oh, you have an appointment for this day. Because once you get diagnosed with something, which Ireland doesn't like doing, they hate fucking diagnosing people. I was 16 having to fight my doctor for a diagnosis that I didn't even understand because it wasn't explained to me.
Yeah, and that's that's a problem, right? The label is there so that clinicians have a way to easily communicate a complex problem. You know, saying you have BPD tells a therapist or a psychologist symptoms to expect, behaviors to expect. But if it's not explained to the patient, well, okay, I have this, what does that mean? And, I mean, just having the label is not helpful to the client or the patient. It needs context. It's like if somebody asks you, what's wrong with my car, and you're a mechanic, and you open it up and you look and you find some sort of problem with the engine, and you're like, oh, your engine's fucked. Well, their next question is going to be, what do you mean fucked? Because you didn't explain it. You can't just assume, as clinicians, that everyone understands definitions for disorders. You have to explain them.
It should be a very basic thing.
It should be. I mean, it's a common sense thing, and from what I know of the Irish mental health system, they just kind of throw the label out there, and the patient kind of has to do their own research. I remember with Nate, him asking me, what is BPD? What does that mean? And I explained it to him, and then I gave him a book to read, which is, it sucks that
Homework.
Nate had to learn about it, from reading a book or asking a friend instead of from his clinician, but that appears to be how things are done in Ireland. So.
Because it happened recently as well, sure, with complex PTSD.
Yeah.
Like, I know what PTSD is. What the fuck does it mean if it's complex?
Right. And, it doesn't really take a long time to explain either, which surprises me that they just kind of glossed over it. Because, complex PTSD is usually, it's multiple trauma related, whereas PTSD is a singular event that caused the trauma. And it's a little easier to get past because it's one event, right? So it's one event that you have to employ techniques to get past and learn to deal with, whereas complex PTSD has multiple instances of trauma, and you kind of have to tackle them one by one. It's not impossible, but it makes it more difficult. And just telling someone you have complex PTSD, again, doesn't tell them shit.
I feel like we destroyed that question, if I do say so myself.
I agree.
The next one we have is, why is it the people that are always there for everyone else always feel so alone?
So that could be a couple of different reasons. that kind of behavior is generally people-pleasing behavior. And people-pleasing behavior, and like I said, I don't want to say always, because it's not always that way, but frequently, people that are trying to please others rather than worrying about their own mental health and stuff are doing it because they either grew up in an environment where they didn't feel secure. So abuse is often part of that history because you learn that your social relationships are they're kind of tenuous, and so being safe means you have to please the people around you. That's how you keep people in a good mood, how you get your needs met. So those kind of people often grow up to be people pleasers. Um, and so they will forsake their own needs and wants to make sure that they maintain their social relationships because they're afraid of those relationships being damaged or lost and thus fear losing what those relationships provide to them. Um, Other people use it to mask their own sadness. There's something to be said for the saddest person in the room is a clown. Um, those people want to, they don't want others to feel what they feel. And so they go out of their way to do things that are funny or thoughtful and stuff like that so that other people aren't experiencing the kind of things they go through. So it could be either one of those things. And some people are just really altruistic too. But if you're really just altruistic, you're not really going to feel the I'm alone part. It's just going to be like, oh, cool. I was able to do something.
I feel like in every friend group, there's always the therapist friend. And the therapist friend always kind of ends up being the one that has kind of experienced the issues. It's kind of like, there's always this like joke, it's like, oh, the relationships expert is the one that can't get into an actual relationship or
Yeah,
failed relationships.
Right.
And I feel like because you're helping somebody go through what you've already went through when you didn't have anybody to help, it's probably why you might feel alone, because you're sitting there giving advice that you could have used.
Experience is the best teacher, as they say, and unfortunately, having firsthand experience of events is going to make it easier to help others with that.
Yeah. Like, I can barely count to 10, but I can certainly tell what it's give people advice when they get cheated on, or if they mess up when they're drunk, I can give them advice on that. But I can't count to 10. I get stuck on 4. Anyway, next question.
Next question.
Numbers aren't my strong suit.
You go from 3 to 5, Nate.
Yeah, fuck 4. We don't use 4 here.
Nah. Who even likes the number 4? It's such an ugly number. Anyway. How many times does someone have to get fucked over before just giving up? 4.
Relevant number.
Fuck.
Oh God. My answer for that one is it really depends on the person.
Your willpower.
If you're not good at setting boundaries, you can get fucked over a lot before you'll give up on someone, or you might not ever give up on them. If you're very good at setting boundaries and are, willing to work with people, then you're probably going to give them a couple of chances. And then if they overstep their bounds or, fuck over your goodwill, by that point, then you're going to be like, all right, I'm done. I told you that this was going to be a thing. You deliberately went out of your way to cross the boundary, and I'm not going to put up with it. Um, Boundaries are a very important thing to have in relationships. You don't ever want to let people walk all over you, but you also don't want to be a dickhead either, right? So you have to know where that middle ground is, where you're respecting yourself without being a shithead to the other person. Um,
You don't want to be a cunt, but you also don't want to be a doormat.
exactly.
Yep.
Because I've been both. And both of them relationships didn't end well. I don't talk to either of them girls anymore. But at the end of the day, it's not, you don't need to give up. It's just, it's like you fall over, you get back up. You're not going to fall down and just stop getting up, because that would be stupid, wouldn't it? You don't want to just lay on the ground. But each time you fall, it takes longer to pick yourself back up. And that's kind of the way to look at it. It's just, it's like hiking a mountain. About halfway up the mountain, you're like, fuck this, I don't want to do it. But you're already halfway up and you want to keep going because you want to see what you want to see the rest of the mountain has to offer. So it goes, you start going up, you're going to stop, you're going to be considering going back down. But at the end of the day, when you're stopped, you have to keep going up. It's like, you live and you learn. Because
I will say that I agree with that, with the caveat that if you are dealing with someone who habitually oversteps your boundaries, so they go out of their way, right, to test you, to see if you're going to stand up for yourself or not, then it's fine to drop that person out of your life.
yeah,
You
Oh,
need
yeah.
to stand
That's
up
the
for
growing.
yourself.
that's
Yeah.
the growing. Because
And go ahead.
nobody in this world deserves just to get walked over. There's a point where it comes, you might love the person, but you gotta love yourself. Because there's always that phrase, you have to love yourself before you love someone else. And
I don't necessarily agree with that.
I don't agree with that either, but it's like, it gets to a point where if you're put down that much, you gotta give yourself that ounce of decency and just say, I can't, because it's gonna get me nowhere.
I kind of view it as, who is the one person that you are always going to have to deal with your entire life? Guess what? It's you. So you should probably try to be kind to yourself,
In my case,
and you
it's
should be
Emerald.
realistic. And you should be realistic with yourself as well. Um, Deluding yourself about things that you do is not good, but you shouldn't also, be abrasive to yourself, because that's not helpful.
Hopefully that answers your question, Pin. Can self-diagnosing your own mental illnesses cause a placebo effect? Or do you think you're only making your mental illnesses worse?
So I am not a big fan of self-diagnosing. Um, the issue with self-diagnosing is that you could be wrong, or you could have something that's subclinical. And when I say subclinical, that means you have the symptoms of a disorder, but they're not disruptive enough in your life to be considered a disorder. Um, there's basically like four levels of disorders, right? So you have subclinical, and then you have mild, moderate, and severe. And then, of course, you have like no sign at all. Um, so you could have, let's say, you could have some small anxiety problems, right? Like, a very specific thing. Like if you go into a crowded bar, it sets off anxiety. Well, if that's the only time that you experience anxiety, then you probably don't have an anxiety disorder. Um, and so diagnosing yourself is going to cause you more problems than is worth. Um, you should never self-diagnose. If you think you have a mental illness and you can afford to see someone or make an arrangement to see someone, do that. Um, bec-
Absolutely.
because again, you could be wrong, or you could be making yourself worse. And people that self-diagnose tend to look for those sort of communities that we were talking about before, where it's like, well, I know I have ADHD, so I'm going to go look at this ADHD forum.
Yeah.
And then you're going to get a bunch of ideas in your head that are not accurate and not helpful.
I'm glad to say that I never googled my issues.
Don't do it.
Yeah, don't.
No, like, one thing is when I was reading that book on BPD, I kind of read it and I was like, fuck, am I a failure of BPD? Was I just not made right? And then the more I read, I was like, BPD can have so many different things. Because I read the book twice, because it took me so long to read it the first time.
It's not an easy read.
No,
And
oh god, no, it is not.
Is, and BPD is really complex too. It's not a simple, straightforward kind of disorder.
I swear, reading it, it's so strange seeing how you feel put to paper when it's not you that's read it, that it's somebody else. And then it's so strange also seeing so many different variants of what you're feeling put to paper, I guess. Because, like, there's so many different kinds of BPD. There's so many different levels. And it's, you relate a little bit to each of them, but not fully to each of them. And it's weird because you're thinking that maybe I don't have BPD. Because you don't relate to all of it, but that's the stigma with mental health. If you have a disorder or an illness, you have to relate to all of it. It's like, no, you don't, because thanks for that.
I wouldn't be surprised.
She's through
if okay, I wouldn't be surprised if BPD eventually has a spectrum, kind of like autism does, because it is such a varied disorder. Um, when someone has depression and it's just depression, it's pretty straightforward, right? They're going to have pretty similar symptoms across the board. There might be a few mitigating circumstances that make people feel a little different than another person would, but a diagnosis of BPD can mean a lot of things for a lot of different people.
I would say, when it comes to complex mental disorders, I would say BPD's up there.
Oh, for sure.
But then there's also like eating disorders, because you could get told you have an eating disorder but not get specifically told whether it's anorexia or bulimia or both.
Mm-hmm.
Because there's not a lot of clarification in the mental health community, I think. Because even like, the thing about bipolar is you always get told whether it's bipolar or bipolar 2.
Mm-hmm.
But bipolar also feels a lot of depression, but bipolar 2 is mainly the depression bipolar. And then
Yeah, and the thing with bipolar is it has to have that sudden shift.
yeah,
And in type 2, yeah, depression is the main symptom, but people will have some kind of manic response. And it could even be
psychosis.
like they go out and blow $500 on a credit card in one day. I mean, it could be anything. Like just something that requires impulsive serotonin and endorphin seeking behavior.
Like, I get manic episodes.
Mm-hmm.
And when I told somebody that I have BPD but I get manic episodes, they're like, "Are you sure you're not bipolar?" I'm like, "No." Like because they did test me for bipolar, but I didn't have I didn't have it like when they went through all the tests.
Bipolar's very distinct.
Yeah. And I feel like people think that if you have anything close to it, it's like, oh, I have such bad mood swings. I'm bipolar. It's like, no.
Oh yeah, I hear that shit a lot.
Yeah,
It's like,
I don't like when people say that kind
I'm
of shit because
bisexual or bipolar. Like, no.
Yeah.
Erratic mood swings is one thing, but
it's something that happens with a lot of different illnesses too, right? Like people be like, "Ah, I'm so bipolar," or like because they have a short attention span, they'll be like, "Oh, I'm ADHD." It's like, no, you have a short attention span, and people that actually suffer from ADHD and um, my wife won't care. She's an open book about that, but she has ADHD, right? And I mean, Nate knows just from like hearing conversations where she'll come into the office when I'm doing something. It can be the most random ass fucking shit. And I can be lost because I don't know what she's thinking about.
It's never a
No,
dull
no, no, no.
moment. Like,
Yeah, ADHD and dull do not go together. You
No.
definitely will not have a dull life if you have that. But sometimes, it's difficult to follow lines of thought because their brain is moving from point to point to point to point
90
because
mile
it's
an
trying
hour.
to it's trying to stay stimulated. That is a lot of people think, oh, ADHD is
I
people
can't
can't
concentrate.
focus. Yeah. What ADHD really is your brain is chronically understimulated.
Or they're bad
So-
at spelling. Or somebody's bad at spelling, like, oh my god, I'm dyslexic.
No, you're not. You just can't spell ghost. It doesn't have. It's not GOST. All right.
Ghost! But
Spooky ghost.
it's just... it's just... People think that anything... Like, any small thing must mean that they have this or that, or this or that, or this or that. Like,
Right.
I can count to 3. I'm a mathematician.
Damn.
Nice. I read one book.
Oh fuck
Hell
yeah.
I'm an English lit major. Like what? No, you're not. You're a dork. It's a joke. Ah. But like, oh, I can't even. What was it? That was self-diagnosing. Like that. Oh, it can. If you self-diagnose though, it can definitely place a placebo effect on you. You could Google like. This is more hypochondriac though. You could Google like symptoms of cancer, and you could be convinced you have fucking cancer. All because of a headache.
If you research any fucking symptom and go to WebMD, you'll be like, "Fuck, man, my pinky is tingling," and it'll be like, "Yeah, you have ass cancer."
Yeah,
So-
that's WebMD in a fucking nutshell right there. That's why I never go to it because it can tell me I'm fucking dying.
Yeah, if you have a problem, go to a fucking
I would be
doctor.
so fucking lucky.
I don't know that you want ass cancer, Nate,
No.
but all right.
Next question. Wait. Okay. So, this is more like, the question is why does it have to make you different for having a mental illness? But like, the answer is, it doesn't have to make you different, it's just that, it's the way you perceive it, I guess, or the way that people around you perceive it. Because, like, everybody's different.
Yeah, I never really understood that. Like, oh, like I'm different. Well, everyone's different. You're not exactly like somebody else. Like what?
Yeah, Ryan's right. I mean,
Literally everyone's
everybody.
different. I've never met anyone that is exactly like me.
Like, there is nobody out there who is as attractive as I am. And as short as I am being this hot.
Shut the fuck up, Nate. Shut the fuck up.
But, it's like, the whole the whole fucking thing is like, oh, you're mentally ill? You're weird. No, you're weird for not being mentally ill, fuck you. Like,
It's you guys talking about me.
this
I'm
isn't
the weird one.
aimed. Yeah, you are weird. But you're weird for different
I know
reasons.
I am. Oh, I know I am. Everyone I fucking know is weird.
I'm a fucking weirdo. Like, trust me, I am fucking strange. But
everybody's weird in their own way, right? Like, and that's
Fuck
something
you,
like
I see you.
fuck you.
Emerald
Fuck
bands, man.
If Emerald's still in here, I feel a band coming.
No, we didn't talk
But
about
yeah.
this, did he? No, I didn't.
Oh,
It was Beyonce this time.
The way
topic,
falling on that railing gave him 3 fractured fucking ribs.
the fuck?
Hey, what did he do?
Right, so he fell on a railing outside the bar. And he has fucking 3... You're driving with 3 fractured ribs on an icy road.
I don't remember you
Well,
telling me about this.
Oh, you
If he
don't.
doesn't have anybody else to get him to the doctor or the hospital, you know.
But...
Although, here's the sucky thing about ribs. All they can do is really wrap it.
Ooh. Might go pretend to fracture my ribs so they wrap my chest in ace bandages.
Mate,
It was a joke, it was a joke!
I'm gonna fucking end you.
I'm so funny. They wrapped it and gave you painkillers. Right, remember,
Yeah.
you take them in your mouth and you take a drink, you do not snort them.
No, they're administered rectally.
Okay.
So
Right,
what was
Look,
the next question?
the next...
I am from Tennessee. We invented butt chugging, okay? If you put it directly into your digestive tract, you will absorb shit faster.
Stop! Yeah, isn't it like people... No, we're not talking about that.
No. Next question, fucker.
Can soaking up someone else's problems and emotions be too much and can cause overthinking and emotional trauma to eventually become a mental illness? Yes.
So, soaking up other people's problems and emotions can lead to emotional burnout. It is possible to take too much on yourself.
I'm not letting that
And-
message in, Roy.
It is possible to try to deal with other people's problems so much that it's detrimental to yourself. I don't know that I would say it could eventually become a mental illness. I would say that it could be a mitigating factor in developing a mental illness, but being the specific cause of one would be highly unlikely.
Oh, Emerald's in chat.
Yay.
I don't like, not necessarily be like you get mental illness, but like if you get that emotionally drained from it, then you are not weaker, but you're
Making yourself more susceptible to things.
Yeah.
We'll put it that way.
Yeah.
It's just like, you know, if you don't sleep, right? You are making yourself more susceptible to a number of physical ailments. If you sleep like 2 hours a night or something, like,
it's like
then
if you don't quarantine or if you don't stay 6 feet apart, you're gonna end up with COVID.
Yeah.
Or you might get COVID. There's no guarantee you do, but there's a chance. There's a chance you might get a mental illness.
yeah,
but not
you're rolling the dice.
Yeah.
You're rolling the dice is what you're doing.
Roll a 7 on physical, please. Sorry. At what point is it just easier to shut yourself off from everyone else instead of always getting hurt? It's not that you need to shut yourself off from everyone, it's that you need to shut off the bad people away from you.
That is correct.
Because if you shut off yourself, you're just going to get hurt yourself. But if you shut off the bad people in your life, get them away, pretend that they are like a bit of shit in your shoe, throw it out, then you're okay. But if you just leave them open to continue to the possibility of hurting you, making you want to shut off, because shutting off yourself is going to make you lonely and fragile. Like,
Yeah, the shutting yourself in kind of thing is a defensive response. Um, you kind of liken it to socially being a turtle. You withdraw into your shell,
oh, my
and
question's next.
it's it's not good for you. Humans are social creatures. We just are. Even the most introverted person needs social interaction to be healthy. And if you're finding yourself always being hurt through your social interactions, then you need to start questioning the quality of your relationships. Um, if you are constantly being hurt by other people and you don't think you have anything to do with that, you really need to think about whether these people are good for your life or not. And the way you get past that feeling of always being hurt is what Nate said. It's absolutely right. You cut those people out of your life. You have to be willing to drop people that are not a positive influence on your life.
And truthfully, if it comes to the situation where you have to think, are they good for your life? They're probably not good for your life. As much as it hurts to say, if you have to sit and think if somebody's doing good for you, then
Yeah, you shouldn't have to think about that sort of thing.
You shouldn't have to.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Roy. Yeah, I did it last night before I went to bed. It's my question next. Do you think people who haven't experienced mental health issues, but say study psychology, can properly understand it?
So, can they understand it? Yes. Can they empathize with it? No. Um, so,
But how,
let's.
like, sorry, but how can they understand it if they haven't experienced it? Like, I know,
Study it.
I know you can study it, but properly understand it.
Well, you can properly understand how to fix a car, but never actually fix a car. Now, that doesn't mean you won't run into problems if you try to do it, because, knowing something and doing something are two different things. So, someone who understands psychology but hasn't experienced some kind of mental illness is going to understand the symptoms, the signs to look for, but they're not necessarily going to be as good at providing proper solutions immediately, because every person, regardless of what mental illness they have, unless it's a very common thing like depression, when we get into the more complex disorders, like we were talking about with BPD not that long ago, there is a wide variety of symptoms that someone can go through. And if you don't have experience with mental illness, you might not be good at identifying which ones are there. Um, but there is a reason that we have the DSM manual, and it's there to help people who don't automatically know all of the symptoms of a specific illness determine that it's that illness.
Okay. At what point in your life did you turn to music as an outlet? Personally, I did it when I was very young. Like, music for me is an escape, really. Like, there are certain songs, like, almost every song I listen to has a memory. And that's why there's some songs I can't listen to anymore. But most songs always have a memory connected to them, so, like, I'm sure Tempren remembers all the words to his first dance song with Kat. Or I'm sure Ryan can think of a song he likes to study it to. I don't know, he's a dork.
Fuck off. No, but there are definitely songs that like you listen to them and like, oh yeah, because I used to listen to the song a lot during this time of my life, and it brings back those memories.
Absolutely.
Even a bit of nostalgia, or like, oh fuck, I mean, like, ooh, don't want to remember that. Take that off the playlist.
Yeah, I mean, music connects with people, and because it's such a comfort to pretty much, it's one of those things that universally humans generally are like, I can understand why someone relates to music. Now, people don't always necessarily understand every genre or whatever, but for the most part, music is a universal human experience. So people use it as an outlet. They use it to relive memories, like Ryan was talking about, or they use it to help them get through tougher times as a way of like self comfort. Music can be actually healing. There is such a thing as music therapy, and it does work for some people and some illnesses. It's not appropriate for everything, but um, some mental illnesses benefit greatly from musical therapy.
It's like sometimes people have a trigger, and sometimes people have something that can help with the trigger.
Mhm.
And I feel like most of the time, stuff that helps with the trigger is music, because you can always escape, whether it's in the words or in the music itself. Oh, look who's back.
Hello, I'm back.
Now I have to fucking move.
Are you back?
Now I have to move this stuff again. Hold on, guys. I'm so sorry.
I'm sorry.
Ruining everything.
Oh, don't be sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry.
It's really inconvenient.
Dude, you have no idea how nice it is to be able to breathe and not feel pain.
Well,
How
what
much
happened?
how much Vicodin have you had, Roy?
I'm not allowed to have Vicodin. I got paracetamol.
Oh, okay.
I have opioid issues that I'm not allowed to have
Gotcha.
them. So,
Not a
This
drug
isn't the
yet, so I
place.
don't know
This
what
isn't
that
the
is.
place. No.
fuck it.
Right. Our next question.
Question.
Oh, this is
How
another
many
me
questions did I
one.
miss? How many questions did I miss?
A good few.
I'm sorry, everyone.
No, don't panic. You were in pain.
You don't need to be
I-
sorry.
You made an attempt, and now you're back. So that's all we can ask.
I'm also high as a fucking kite right now. So hey.
Oh yeah, I could tell immediately when you came in. There was some big "What's up, fuckers" energy when Roy came into the call.
Right. Actually, before we get into our next question, do we want the tags controversial corner?
Oh.
Give me. I have to keep going because I need to actually prepare this shit because I have nothing prepared. I wasn't expecting to come back if I'm being honest.
Our next question by yours, Telahuli, is: do you feel like meds really just act as a placebo because the doctors told you they'd help? Personally, for me anyway, I think, like, for my meds, that's what I think.
So that answer depends on the person. Generally, no. Most medicines are empirically researched. They are compared to a placebo effect, and for that specific purpose, to determine whether or not they are actually having an effect, because the placebo effect is a real thing. Like, if I told Nate, here, take this, and it was just sugar pills, and I said, it's going to help your BPD,
It's cocaine.
he would probably have some symptom improvement, but it would be the placebo effect. But a drug that's been tested for specific illnesses and behaviors is probably going to help. Like I was saying earlier, there are some people where medication doesn't help them as much as therapeutic techniques, and some people need both. So it really depends on the person and how they respond to the treatment.
No, the next one is from our not so sweepy guy.
Hey, that's me.
I'm surely not free of mental woes, But how do I know
No.
if it's a genuine problem or just an emotion? Go to a doctor.
I
That
wouldn't.
is
I wouldn't. That's
'Cause I
a
don't
that's a
feel like I
slippery
have.
slope.
I don't feel like I have to,
But
but
like,
there's sometimes I feel like shit, and I'm like, well, like, is this like a real
so
problem, or I'm just
so
feeling like shit?
the official answer would be, if you're concerned about it, go to a doctor. The
Right.
unofficial answer would be, how disruptive is it to your life? If this is a very occasional thing, then there's probably nothing wrong.
Yeah,
You probably,
that probably it's because it's like I do just fine with
yeah.
what I go through.
It, if it's not disrupting your life a ton, then it's probably just an emotion, and it's normal.
Yay, so he is just weird.
yeah,
Yeah.
in fairness, everyone's weird in their own way. Like,
No, he's
True.
weird for
We-
not
fucking
having
we were just
mental
talking
problems.
about
We've
this.
already talked about this.
have we really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, just
Oh.
have Ryan go on TikTok and make a new account
Yeah,
called
Ryan.
Normal Guy.
Ryan, just go on TikTok and say you have like BPD.
Like,
No, I'd make up something fucking.
Yeah,
way
Emerald,
outlandish.
I know that I have to play 2 games of League, but I'm not doing it till later this week.
fucking, what was I saying anyway? Fucking, like, I don't think I've ever heard Ryan depressed in the 6, 7, 8 years I've known him. Like,
Because
I think the
don't
saddest
I
I've ever
genuinely
heard you
get
was when
depressed.
Jake died. Yeah, I think the
Yeah.
saddest I've ever heard you was when Jake died.
Yeah, because I don't really get depressed. Like when I feel like sad because of something, I mean, I just
Yeah, and
How does
Get
it
sad
over it.
feel
is
to live my dream?
a normal emotion, right? We
yeah,
all
I
experience
get over
sadness.
it. I get over it after a while, and I'm back to normal.
Yeah, this is completely a me thing. I think Ryan suffers from like intrusive thoughts. That's just me. Like
Excuse me?
like I imagine, like, do you ever just sit back and like just think to yourself and just spiral? No, or is that just a thing I do?
I do
I
that.
don't know about spiral, but I'm constantly fucking thinking about shit all the time. I'm constantly thinking about shit.
Like, are you thinking about like family, friends, or is it just like, oh, that cow
You
sounds
know,
good?
like it would
Oh,
be
cool.
like I'd be thinking about stuff like, oh, what would my life be like if this is what I decided to do, or I wonder what this would look like.
Okay,
If,
that's just
you
normal
know that
shit.
sort of. Yeah, like I'm always
Here's
doing that shit.
here's sorry, I'm hijacking the conversation a little bit. Here's the thing.
It's okay.
I
You're high.
think here's the thing that's gonna separate if Ryan is just weirdly normal or there is legitimately something wrong with him. Ryan, when you park in a multi-story car park
Right.
and you park near the edge where you can see out over the edge,
Oh, I know where this is going.
is there a little
Yeah.
part of your brain? Is there a little part of your brain that goes, just fucking jump, just go for it?
Do a backflip.
Well, if there is, it's more like a. That'd be kind of funny. No, I don't know. I'm not genuinely thinking of fucking
Okay.
doing it. It'd be like, kind of funny.
Right. Okay. You're
Yeah,
weirdly
like-
normal.
Yeah, you're weirdly normal.
It'd be it would be like if I did this, would I survive? I think so.
'Cause
That's kind of how I think. I think
everyone.
all right.
I think every like genuinely middle of the road human being
Like there's
has that voice.
there's an Amazon Prime truck in my parking lot right now. I could be sitting here thinking, how can I sneak on the back of that? What would happen if I did?
Oh,
Where
well,
would I end up?
That's just fucking. That's just normal shit that people think about.
Yeah.
I drive
So,
past
I
buses
think-
and I think I could easily steal them.
Oh my god, Nate.
Well, I don't like stealing from people. All right. Mostly because you end up with
Yeah.
fucking junk you don't need. Or it
Well,
could be someone's
right.
fucking life-saving medication.
Imagine me with a bus though. I
That's
think that'd be pretty fucking cool.
I know.
That'd be pretty cool.
I think a good way of kind of framing what Roy's talking about is I think it was Bill Burr basically put it the right way. When you have those kind of thoughts, right? Is it like because you want to skip the next 2 to 3 hours of your life that's going to be a pain in the ass? Or are you really being like, oh man, fuck life, I should just drive into this fucking pillar?
No, it's just I don't know. I just think about shit. First thing that comes to my head, I'm thinking about it.
Yeah, that's
Better,
true.
I see it as like it's funny. I like to just be funny with myself.
Imagine I
Yeah,
just
and,
jumped.
like, yeah, and
Comedy.
see, people. There are people that have suicidal thoughts, but they're not actually thinking of committing it, right? They're being like, okay, I'm gonna have to do something I really don't want to do, but if I just stuck my head out this car window and let it hit that fucking pole as I drive by, I won't have to deal with it.
Ugh.
Okay,
That'd
but
be
are we
never-
talking about
never anything like
Hereditary
that.
right now?
That would be
A
the
little
most
bit.
death metal way to fucking die.
It would be
You
very
decapitate
grisly
yourself
way.
while driving in the car, and just fucking
Right.
takes out a
I
bus with a school
never have
children.
thoughts like that. No.
So I
Oh,
know,
dude,
I know
it's a
two
problem
of
with
us.
me.
I know two of us in this call are very guilty of this. But like at the smallest inconvenience, one of them will just say, "Fuck this shit! I'm gonna kill myself."
Yeah, but like, well, as like, I hate blaming everything on being Irish, but like, as Irish people, like
Okay.
we as Irish men, we are not allowed. We are basically not allowed to show emotion unless it's like a really, really
That question
traumatic event.
doesn't come up yet.
I'm sorry. I don't know where we are in the question. I'm
Stop!
sorry.
Stop!
On
But
mine.
It is definitely not a good thing to be flippant about suicidal thoughts, because if you genuinely have them and it's like this is not a passing thought, or it's not like um something you use to cope with a situation, then you're running into problems. You have something further going on that's not being addressed.
I don't have suicidal thoughts.
Lucky you,
Yeah, no.
Ryan.
I could never do it.
I don't think you have any real things going on, Ryan. I think you're just a dude. And
That would be the last
That's-
thing I'd
that's
do.
fine.
Don't stop being just a dude, right?
Fuck,
Okay.
I had another question actually. I just thought of now. I'm forgetting it 'cause we're talking about.
Add it to the list. We'll get to it.
I don't remember it.
Well then, that's
right.
guess what? That's a you problem. Oh my god, Ryan finally has a problem, guys.
Oh,
I got
yeah.
problems.
The
Oh, I got
extent of
problems,
Ryan's mental health is he can't remember a fucking question.
Okay, our
Still
next,
deaf.
our,
No.
our next question is, why do we all have that one song we scream at the top of our lungs, no matter when or where we are? Is it an anxiety or trauma that triggers it?
I'm sorry, but at the top of our lounges. Come on, Payne.
Oh, for fuck's
Come on,
sake,
bro.
man.
Right, well, I
I'm anal about spelling and grammar.
Right, okay, I can't even call you a grammar thing because this is going on YouTube and I don't want to get banned on YouTube.
Grammar
Oh,
Please.
you can't call him a grammar Nazi?
You fucker.
I'm
Use please. Alright.
I hope you have good editing software, Nate.
I just exported from this, and I don't care.
I'm pretty sure you can find the bleep button somewhere. You're
Nah, if I get
fine.
banned, I get banned. I'll remove Emerald. No, Emerald, no!
Emerald, don't make me go off. I'll fucking do
No,
it.
no,
I'll
I'm supposed to be.
Alright, back to the question.
Alright, what were we doing
Right,
next?
Ryan, do you have a song you scream at the top of your lungs, no matter what?
When I'm driving and a fucking banger comes on, you
No,
goddamn right I
one
am.
specific song.
One specific song? Ooh.
You're on your deathbed. It's the last song you can listen to.
That's even harder to think about.
That's a fucking
I wouldn't
really
know.
hard question.
I wouldn't know what song that would be, because I just do a lot of songs, because they're good songs. I just want to
Well, name
sing.
one of them songs to me now.
name one of them songs.
Yeah, name a song, one of these songs that you say that you would sing. Of course, Emerald says WAP.
The GD
No,
anthem.
not WAP. Honestly, yeah, it could
Right,
be the GD
now,
anthem.
the
it could be
GD
something
anthem. Do you have any anxiety or trauma that triggers it for you screaming it?
He's
No,
been to Chicago, of course. He's got anxiety
no,
about that
it's
shit.
just funny. That's all. It's just funny.
Yeah.
Oh.
Personally,
But if I'm being real, no. If I'm bursting out into fucking singing, it's not because of anxiety or trauma. It's just because it's a good song, and I like it.
what about you, Roy?
Well, I just listen to a lot of music.
Yes, we
But like
do.
I know for a fact when I feel anxious or like if we're in a call and someone else fucking joins a call that I don't really know, the good old fucking and I run comes out.
And
Yep,
I
that's
run!
Yeah.
It's ran, by the way.
We haven't heard that in a long time.
Yeah, because we haven't had anyone new join the fucking shit.
That's true, actually.
I think the newest person we've had this fucking in a while was that fucking Grog dude that
Grog.
put the question in.
Grog.
Yeah, I just sat there. I was like, who's Grog? Who's Grog?
One song that
Grog is actually a longer member of the community.
Yeah, Groggy McBlicky.
Grog
Yep.
Blicky. We miss
I
you.
found it funny because it's fucking Blicky.
McBlicky.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of like there's specific music I listen to very, very loud. I have to fucking check my playlist though.
One song
Uh,
that I'll always fucking scream my lungs out, I guess, is My Ex by Baby Keem. Because when me and my ex broke up, I listened to that on repeat for a bit.
Oh, there's not to hide. There is like certain songs that my ex used to listen to that I literally can't listen to
Yeah,
anymore.
no, we've kind of like covered that. Like, there's stuff that I.
Fuck's sake, man!
No,
my
it's
fucking
fine.
therapist, man.
It's fine. But like,
Also, the song is "Sleeping Dogs" by Blackberry Smoke.
like I had to when me and my ex broke up, I was trying to convince myself I hated them. So I was like, I threw on my ex by Baby Keem, and I was like, this won't be the first time that I confess, and I think it's time to face it that I hate my ex. I had that shit in repeat.
I don't really have songs like that for me.
Right, well, lucky you. I wish we could all be like you. Okay.
You don't want to be like me.
Sounds like a you
I'd
problem.
like to- I'd like
Fuck
to point-
off, Emerald!
I'd like to point out, I just noticed this. This is a very diverse cast of people we have here. We've got the semi-professional in Tempren,
Nice.
the complete fucking wreck of a human being in Nate, the middle ground, which is me, and there's the normal guy, which is Ryan.
We're not using the term normal here.
Tempren,
What
do you have a
fucking
song
word-
that you scream at the top of your lungs no matter what?
Honestly, not really. I'm a very internal person. Like, there's songs that I'll listen to when I'm really going through shit or something like that, but nothing that I'm just like, I gotta belt this out.
No, I'll only really do that shit if I'm like driving. 'Cause there's no one with me. I'm not just
Yeah,
gonna outburst
yeah.
that shit in the middle of my house.
Right. Oh, this is a
Or
good one.
something.
Why
Alright,
is it
let's hear it.
that the majority of people will stop to help an animal they see on the street but not another human? Because humans have the abilities to help themselves. Not all animals.
I'm going to
do.
say this right now.
up.
This is the thing, and Ryan can attest this. I have said this multiple times. I have more like sympathy for like the fucking delivery robot, not little delivery robot cart little things. I
Yeah.
have more sympathy for them than I do real humans. Okay.
No,
Oh,
no
that's hard.
cursing.
That's
No
hard.
cursing.
Okay.
We're not allowed to curse
Like,
on
I have
the
more.
radio.
I have
That's
more.
really
I have more
hard.
sympathy for those little robots than I do for real people. Like I see videos of like people kicking those fucking shit. Ah,
I started a timer. That wasn't even 10 seconds, dude. Are you for real?
Dude,
No self-control.
it's like 85% of my vocabulary. What the fuck do you want from me?
That was 7 seconds.
Stop making me laugh.
I have more sympathy for animals.
Sorry, Emma.
I struggle to feel empathy or sympathy with humans. It's an emotion I'm not really good with. I don't
For me,
understand it.
For me, it's just easier to help an animal. Like if someone's, say, knocked out on the side of the road or something, like, okay, you call 911, but that's pretty much all you can really do. I don't want to try to help
Like,
them because it's make it
I-
worse.
like,
With
it's
an
not-
animal, it's
It's not like
just pick them up.
you can slash escort and take them to pillbox.
Shut up, man.
Alright, so like I struggle with just like feeling anything towards anyone that isn't like a close friend of mine. So like the only thing I will do is like I'll give like a homeless Irish man money
No,
so
never
we can
give
go
them-
because
buy a bag of blow.
couldn't care less. I know what it's like to be homeless, and I see an Irish fella in his little tenty thing chilling. I'll throw him like $5, $10, $20, like just to chill. Like I don't care.
Here's
He
five
can go buy
euro for.
a bottle, go buy a bottle of whiskey. I don't care. He can put a barrel of blow into his arm. I couldn't care less.
Here's €5 for
He
you,
could also
boy.
what?
Here's €5 for you, lad.
Well, I don't do it like that. I'll just fucking sneak it into his little cup thing. Like
Just give
again,
them
This
that.
plastic
I
cup
have
from the deli.
yeah, I honestly I have such an issue with people that do that stuff.
Emerald said Roy would literally buy the guy some Coke and not the soda guy.
I would, yeah. If he needed it, I'd give it to him. I don't care. Like I know what
Right.
it's like to deal with addiction. I know how to deal with this shit.
Roy, I know a dealer BRB.
Oh my god, it was a mistake coming back.
I'm the same though.
I'm trying to have a legit conversation here, and y'all are fucking with me. I don't care about your fucking stupid redeem no cursing bullshit. I'm cursing. You can fuck off now.
Wasted 3,500. What are they called here? Rights.
Right.
No, but
Why
I
are-
kind of,
Rights.
in all seriousness, I get what Roy's getting at.
Yeah.
There's a subset of people who are like, if they want to use a substance to escape from their shitty situation for a while, what the fuck ever. And I think there's some merit to that thought, and it's also got its problems in its own way because you're contributing to somebody's habit, but it's a very human feeling to be like, if they want to use this so they're not feeling the suffering that they're currently feeling, then who am I to stand in the way of that?
Yeah, because like I know in past that I've used like drugs to deal with shit that I've been going through, like the death of my ex, death of my father. Like I used to fucking go wild with that shit just to not feel, just to not be me for a bit.
Yeah.
Like if I see a dude like, especially this time of year when it's fucking Baltic outside,
Oh, it's so cold.
like I don't care. Like if I see a fella on the street on his own, I'll give him money. If I see like a woman with a kid, I will offer to buy them a hotel or a fucking like take them to McDonald's for the kids to have something to eat. But like, it's I'm not gonna see a mother fucking with track marks all up her arms and the kid next to her and go, "Here's €20, go nuts." I'd be like, "Do you want food? Do you want like I get your kid fucking clothes or something?" It's like I've stopped doing it recently because I'm struggling with money recently. Fucking, but like back when I was working and like getting good money, dude, I'd spend like $1,000 a week on just like giving homeless people food and shit. That's an exaggeration. $1,000 a month. Sorry.
Yeah.
And I would say that it's important not to lose that aspect of yourself, Roy. A lot of
Yeah.
people, because this ties into my answer to the question, most people will stop to help an animal and not a person because of the bystander effect. It's a real thing.
Oh yeah,
You
totally
you
real thing.
assume someone else is going to come by and help them, so it's not your responsibility.
Well, yeah.
And
Go ahead.
that's how most people think, right? People that are out in society functioning are not looking to use their time unexpectedly on another person they don't know. So they're just going to be like, oh, well, somebody else will come along, or I can call the cops or an ambulance or something, and then, I'm going to wipe my hands of it. Most of the time, it's because people assume that that person is going to get help, and that's not always true.
Well, like as I said a while ago, like I was homeless for a year and a half, I think. Like, so I know how shitty it is to be sitting there just chilling, hoping someone throws money at you and watching fuckers walk past. like just not even looking at you. It's like I never got to the point of being dehumanized, but it's really fucking disheartening to see, some fucker pull up in his fucking range, hop out, and doesn't even fucking give you a second glance because he thinks he's better than you.
Yeah.
I will admit at some points they are better than you because they're life together, blah 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 blah. But they're also not better than you because they're self-centered pricks that don't care. You get
Look,
me?
we all end up in the dirt.
Oh
So,
yeah,
I
100%.
mean, that's there's no real difference other than societally based things. Like, you were born into a family that has more resources. Good for you. You didn't earn it. You're not any different than anybody else.
Yeah,
It's just but that see Roy is probably more likely to help someone because he has empathy for that situation. You've been through it. You know what it's like you said, to just sit there and watch people not even give you a second look and just be like, "Oh, well, whatever." That person clearly fucked up. You're making a judgment call on a person you don't know. And unfortunately, uh, as humans, we are very judgy motherfuckers. Nate, stop gagging on your vape.
It didn't taste nice. Okay, so
just fucking derailing the whole conversation.
we have 5 more questions.
Let's go.
Why is it that even at our darkest times, 90% of us won't say a damn thing and just keep it to ourselves?
Okay, can we hold that question until we get to Roy's second question that's coming? Because my answer is going to be tied into that.
Yeah, okay.
Oh, yeah, I can see it.
Okay. We'll do the next one then. How do you tell people you're struggling with mental health issues without making them worry?
You don't.
No, you don't.
Plain and simple. If people care about you and you feel like you need to tell them that you're struggling, they're gonna worry because they care about you. That's just it. There's no magical way to be like, "Hey, I thought about driving into a river today," and they're gonna be like, "Ah, cool." That's just not how that works.
Like,
Um,
the easiest way to put it was you were worried about me when I was in hospital. And that was
Yeah,
when...
Friends of mine. Sorry. Did I skip? I think I skipped.
we skipped one question because it's gonna tie into my answer.
Oh no,
furthermore.
I'm having network issues right now. I'm skipping
Oh,
as in, yeah.
Oh, right.
gotcha.
Right.
Um, yeah, basically my answer is you can't. You can't tell someone that you're going through something, and if they care about you, they're gonna worry. That's just how it is. And accepting that they're gonna worry means accepting that people care about you. And when you're feeling really down, sometimes it's a hard pill to swallow. So
I feel like with mental health, it's hard to accept that because your brain is fighting you, like you're fighting against yourself, basically. It's hard to like come to the conclusion or the acceptance that people actually do care because you're so against yourself that you like can't fathom the idea of other people being there, like wanting you to win your battles. And it's normal, I guess, because like you're going through it and you think all these god awful things about yourself, and there's people backing you, like your corner, saying you got this, we have faith in you, and you're just like, why would you have faith in someone like me? Like, I know I feel that way. And half of you'd be like, Nate, please shut up. Like, we love you. I don't think
I
our
actually
life...
expected Emerald to say that immediately.
Like,
just be like, Nate, shut the fuck up.
yeah, exactly. It's just like, the way with our demons is when you're fighting them, you think that you are completely unlovable and you're not worth it. But the thing is, you are worth it, and it's just your demons trying to beat you into submission by saying you're not. And one of the worst things you can fight in life is your own mind, because your mind knows what to use against you, because
Well, it's a fight you can't win.
you can't. You can only come to terms with it and learn how to fight back. Realistically, unless you get cured completely, you're never gonna win that fight. But there is ways to try and manage, and there is ways to try and understand it better. Like, I don't want to be a psychologist, but I would love to do psychology just so I can understand myself a bit more.
Makes sense.
And it's kind of like, my brain's been fighting me since the minute I thought I was trans. Because it was like, nah, you're lesbian. You like women. But I was just a wee boy in the wrong body. And you're... It's a fight that's fucking hard, but at one point you'll get there. It's just learning how to fight back strategically instead of just opting for the easiest or the simple answer, which isn't actually the simple answer. It's the answer that hurts you the most and hurts other people the most.
It's the easiest answer.
It's the easiest, but it is not the smartest.
Correct. The easiest thing is not always the right thing, and quite frequently is not. Most good things in life require effort, and unfortunately, mental health is one of those things. If you have shit going on, you're not going to conquer it by just feeling sorry for yourself and being like, I can't do things. It's, you have to put forth the effort. And it's worth it because then you get to live life without shit hanging over your head.
You get to live, laugh, love.
Don't fucking say that shit, man.
Kick Nate. Kick him.
It's a stream.
I don't give a shit. End the podcast.
You still have 2 questions.
Yeah.
Well, you can live, laugh, love on a different string, I guess. Shit.
Right. Well, how about we do my 2 questions and then we'll do the mixed question as our last question, then we'll end.
Okay.
Okay. So we've already kind of covered what if you get a diagnosis but don't understand. We've kind of covered that already. So I don't think we need to ask that one. But
Just as like an addendum to that, I would say, first of all, ask your provider. Like, if they tell you something and then don't elaborate, be like, what does that mean? And if you can't get a straight answer from that, then find a reputable source to find reading material from.
okay. I asked this one because of my diagnosis with CPSD, PTSD.
Mm-hmm.
Because I guess I want to understand it a bit. Is trauma permanent, or is there a way to truly recover?
Trauma doesn't have to be. Trauma is as permanent as we allow it to be. So we don't control what triggers traumatic feelings or brings up things that are hard to deal with, especially related to PTSD, right? You can't control your physical response to things immediately. Like, I mentioned how going into a sterile environment for me would immediately make my heart rate and blood pressure skyrocket. Well, at first I couldn't do anything. But with the right treatment and techniques, it is possible to reduce your trauma to the point that it does not affect you all day, every day, or disrupt your life. But it's not easy. And there's no easy solutions for things like complex PTSD or things like BPD or things like schizophrenia. There are just no easy solutions for those kinds of complex mental illnesses. They require a lot of treatment and a lot of effort on both the side of the clinician and on the side of the patient. And if either one of those people refuses to put in the effort, then that trauma is not going to go away. But it is possible to get rid of it. You just have to have the right tools, the right clinician or therapist, and a very dedicated attitude towards helping yourself.
Well, like the way I've always looked at it, because a therapist taught me once, like I was told to imagine my mental health as like a sheet of tinfoil, like
Mhm.
like our aluminum foil for the Americans,
Right.
Do you mean aluminium?
and like aluminium, fuck you, man.
What
So
the fuck?
like you're born, it's a pristine sheet of aluminum foil, fresh off the roll, just lying there,
Mhm.
and then as you grow and grow and grow, every little thing like crumples it a little bit.
Yep.
And like sometimes you can flatten it out, but there'll always be that little fucking bit of like a dent in the aluminum foil that like it never fully goes away.
Yeah, right.
Like that's the way I was always told to fucking. Well, I was told to look at it that way once, and I was like, oh, makes sense.
And that's an appropriate analogy. I'm not saying that you can completely just make something go away. Like, things that happen to you happen to you. But you can get to the point where these traumatic events are just a crease in your foil instead of being a bump that prevents you
Yeah.
from laying flat.
And on to the last one. So
I did a good.
you did a good, buddy. So, as I've said, why is it that even at our darkest times, 90% of us won't say a damn thing and just put it on ourselves? With the mixture of, do you think that men have a harder time sharing their feelings and problems due to the social stigma about being a man?
Right. So, um, in the case of the darkest times, a lot of men won't say anything, and just absorb their feelings or try to deal with it using substances or many other different ways of dealing with trauma or mental illness or anything like that. And it is because men do have a harder time sharing their feelings and problems. This is not a supposed thing. This is a scientifically proven topic. Men have more difficulty
Is that
relaying their emotions.
Is that
Be-
scientifically proven, like cisgender male, like biological
Yes.
male? So then
Cisgender male.
why do I struggle with it then?
Because um, transgender brains are actually very similar to the gender they identify with. Like, your brain is going to look like a man's brain.
Fuck
So
yeah!
when it comes
Sorry.
So when your thought processes come out, they're going to come out like a man's. And you're going to deal with the same social stigmas of feeling like a man. So, and the same is for trans women. Their brains look like a woman's brain when they're examined with an MRI or other imaging things. So,
That's actually
especially
really interesting. I never knew that.
yeah.
Can I ask a stupid question?
Yeah,
No.
sure.
I thought a brain was just a brain. I thought all brains looked the same.
They physically look the same, but there are areas of a brain that have different growth or a higher density based upon the sex of the person.
Oh, okay. I thought that was all
Yeah.
fucking like bullshit.
Funny word.
No, it's not.
Oh,
Men, the differences are slight, right? They're not like so huge that these bullshit books like Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus. That's horseshit. People are fundamentally the same, but men and women do have small differences in their brains and their neural links and capacities that make them tend towards different behaviors more than the other sex does. Um, and men, especially in Western countries, have a kind of an unwritten social responsibility to deal with their own shit. It's also why a divorce or a splitting of a relationship is usually harder on a man because men rely on their romantic partners for most of their emotional needs. So when a man breaks up with or gets broken up with, while they might be okay initially, eventually it's going to hit them harder than it's going to hit the woman in the case of straight relationships. In queer relationships, it's harder to say. There's not a ton of studies on that, but we are working towards it. There is more information coming out about queer relationships, but for cis heterosexual relationships, the man is going to end up on the short end of the stick of the emotional damage side because men are not encouraged to share their feelings. What do you get told as a kid? Suck it up. Don't cry.
Don't
Be a
cry
man.
or I'll give you something to cry about.
Exactly. And that shit is incredibly unhelpful. Like I just said, right? There are small differences in the brains of the sexes, but fundamentally, we're all very similar. So men experience sadness and feelings of inadequacy and anger and everything that anyone else would feel. You're just not encouraged to speak about it.
And I feel like the reason that most of us decide to keep our problems on ourselves instead of giving them to others is because really we worry about it. We worry that if we put our problems on somebody else, they'll leave. And that's abandonment as well as just being scared to talk about it, because if it's like a close friend or something, you won't want to talk about it if you know they're going through something. Just like they wouldn't want to talk to you about it, but you would still encourage them to because you're like, we're supposed to be here for each other, blah blah blah. But it's just the way that everybody is. Like, I don't really like talking about my problems because I'm always scared that people's gonna be like, fuck, he's weird. Fuck, he's messed up.
That's a straight up lie.
What? I don't like talking about my problems.
You constantly bitch about your problem.
But that's different because you literally stayed. And
Yeah, true. We're still around, aren't we?
No. The way it is with you is you talk to me every night while I was in the hospital. Kind of deal. Like there's been times where Tempren's like argued with me to go get help, and I'm like, no, fuck you, I don't want it. And he goes, Nate, just go get your fucking help. I'm like, no, fuck you, and he goes, Nate. Like, even if I got like somewhat aggressive, he would stay calm and he'd be like, Nate, you need to go get help, buddy, and I'd be like, fuck you, fine. But like, I feel like if you guys hadn't came into my life when you did, I wouldn't have opened up to you at all. Because we had met, like, we had started getting close before I went to hospital, and then everything went downhill. And you guys kept me company while I was in hospital. You just, like, let me just chill in calls with you, even if I couldn't talk.
Yeah.
And
I just want to point out that for any guys out there listening, trans or not, if you have male friends that will listen to your problems, fucking talk, please. It is not good for anyone to hold that shit in, and it will kill you. Men have those high rates of heart attacks and blood pressure increases and shit like that because your emotions affect your physical health. there are reasons why, you know, you should get treated for problems that you have, and they go beyond just living a normal life. They relate to your problems later in life. You know, if you hold everything in, you're going to find yourself eventually in a situation where you have a health scare, or you straight up just fucking die. I mean, stress is a big problem for physical health. And if you don't address it in some way, even just talking to your buddies, right? And being like, I'm having a hard fucking time. This is what's going on. I don't know what to do about it. And just having people listen to you is going to do wonders. It's
Even
better than no help at all.
like suicide rates in men is going up so much in the past like 5 years, and that's because even though everything else in life is progressing and advancing, the stigma around men, as much as people say, oh, men's mental health matters, but people are still scared to come out and say what's wrong with their problems, because
Sorry.
it's because like it's always like, oh, men are supposed to be tough, but like,
Yeah.
if you're in any way feminine, even if you're a man, you're a feminine man, like, it's, oh, you can talk about your problems because you're feminine, but like, manly men, masculine men, have to keep it in there, be the tough guy, you know, just do everything themselves, and that's really one of the biggest problems, because even if it's not a health, like a physical health problem that's gonna like kill you in the end up, it's gonna end up being suicide, and
Yeah.
it's so shit because people, even like people who do drugs, and they're like, oh, I don't have a problem, I like doing drugs, I don't have any mental health problems. 90% of the time they're doing drugs because of their mental health, and they end up overdosing and passing away. Like, it's fucking horrible, because like there's people who start doing drugs at a young age, drinking at a young age.
Hi.
You don't drink anymore though.
Roy.
Yeah, but I was going to die in a year.
Substance abuse is very rarely a thing where somebody's just like, fuck it, I'm gonna do some coke. That's, you know, there's usually an underlying problem, and self-medication is a thing, and it doesn't work.
Okay, I think we have time for one Tig's controversial corner.
Oh, fucking
boy.
Christ. Okay, play the intro. Doesn't actually believe anything he's saying. Yay.
Anything that Roy says in the next 5 minutes is not his opinion. It is just to be controversial and funny.
Yep.
Thank you.
I believe that body shaming is not an actual problem. It is just a reality check.
Ooh. What do you mean by that?
Elaborate.
Yeah,
So-
elaborate.
Like, Emeralds, I'm going to talk about Lizzo for 30 seconds, but it is in context of the video. Okay? It is
All
nothing
right, well,
problem.
everybody say bye to Roy in the chat.
Bye, Roy.
I'm gonna get booted if I say the one wrong word. I'm getting booted. Like, I'm not her music. I don't give a fuck about her music. And this has nothing to do with her music. This is her as a public figure. So, I'm all for everyone being comfortable in their own body. Couldn't give a fuck. You want to fucking blow up to be 400 million pounds? More fucking power to you. But it's when, like, people like, I fucking, I know this is a good controversial topic because even I'm going, this is such a shitty topic to talk about.
Yes.
So, like Lizzo as a public figure, we can all agree that she is either overweight / obese. Yes?
I've actually never seen a picture of this person. So I'm not-
Just Google Lizzo real quick.
Okay.
Lizzo. I am
Alright,
sorry,
yes.
Emerald.
She is
I'm
definitely
sorry,
a bigger
Emerald.
woman.
She
Okay.
is.
Yes?
I don't
she
know
is,
if she's
okay?
necessarily overweight.
I have a feel she is overweight. For her body, she is overweight. For her height, she is overweight.
Well, I don't
Alright?
exactly know her
Cool.
BMI, so I don't really have an opinion on this.
Okay. Alright, I'll give you that one. I personally think she's overweight.
Okay.
Okay?
Okay.
I don't understand why she is classified as a role model, a body image goddess bullshit. Whereas, what's that dude from Roseanne?
What dude? Oh,
John Good, not
John
John
Candy?
Goodman? No,
Oh, John
Goodman.
John
Candy.
Goodman?
Go Goodman. Yeah.
Yeah, that guy is considered a doofus, a fucking idiot for being that size, blah, 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 blah. I personally think, again, play the fucking intro. I don't believe any of this. I'm the devil's advocate right now. I personally believe that it's okay that Lizzo feels confident in her own body, but I should be allowed to not criticize, but be like, the fact that she is so overweight is unhealthy and not be crucified and stuck to a fucking cross. Like, that goes for men, trans women, anyone. Go for fucking animals. I don't believe that anyone should be able to turn to someone and go, "You fat piece of shit," just on the street. That's bullshit. I will agree with that. But when there's doctors actively talking about Lizzo, going, and I talk about Lizzo, talking about an overweight person, I'm sorry, I shouldn't keep harping on Lizzo. I know that. My brain.
You just see
Like-
Emerald's name in the chat, and you're like, Lizzo.
Yeah, but
I
like,
need another
I'm-
man.
I'm trying to think of another I'm trying to think of another overweight person in my fucking brain right now, and I fucking can't. John Goodman and Lizzo. They're all in my brain right now.
Right, it's fine, continue.
Alright. So any overweight person, as a person, I should be able to go to another person that can't be healthy without them instantly going, "Oh, fuck, body shaming, blah, 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 blah." Like, my opinion isn't invalidated because you're offended by me saying that person is unhealthy. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
Like-
I know, I
like,
see what you're saying.
I'm all for, like, it goes the same for, it doesn't have to be overweight. Like,
What about Nikocado
skinny people, like-
Avocado? Like, he's
Nikocado Avocado is a fucking prime example.
Yeah,
He
that man
is
is
the
not
most
healthy.
unhealthy motherfucker on the planet. But when I say that man could really lose some fucking weight, I'm crucified because I'm a bigot.
Yeah, I know exactly what you mean.
And with,
Yeah.
and with that, that is
Oh,
the
my
end of
fucking God.
episode 2.
Dude, I don't like the fact that whenever I bring up the next controversial corner, it just ends the podcast because I turn into an asshole then. People already think I'm a fucking racist, sexist, homophobic piece of shit.
Lizzo's vegan?
Please.
Nikocado was vegan for the longest time. He weighed a healthy 120 pounds. He now weighs 360.
That's just so
And yet,
No.
I'm the unhealthy
No, hold
person
on.
for calling him a fat ass.
And that was episode 2, everybody.
Oh, I'm gonna
that was
fucking kill
episode
myself.
2, alright.
Right.
You still Potter?
Yes.
Hi, Mom. Say please. Say please.
Please and
Right.
thanks.
So that is episode 2, everybody. That was hectic to say the least. And where the fuck? He was. Okay. Not even gonna question it. So
He was removed from the channel.
he definitely has a fucking timeout.
Is he timed out again?
I hope he's enjoyed listening to us get angry and just genuinely talking about mental health, because it's talked about in media, but it's not really talked about. It's more
It's more thought about than it used to be, but
It's
I don't think it's to the level where it needs to be still.
You see,
agree.
the difference with us talking about it today was we weren't romanticizing it, I guess. And we were talking about things that people do want to know but don't fully understand just yet. And fuck, in the future we'll probably do another one of these episodes because I don't think truly mental health can ever be talked about to the full extent. Especially not in 2 hours and 40 minutes. But I feel like it has been discovered that we do have a lot to say about media in general, so that might come up soon.
Oh yeah.
That might come up soon enough, but I have an idea for a podcast that I want to do, but I'll have to talk to the rest of them and see if they're interested in it. But
Yeah, I got a few ideas.
we are gonna try and get more. I think weekly. We're gonna try anyway. Might not.
Flakes.
We'll try weekly, and I'm sorry that this is early. Well, it's not exactly the graveyard shift at the minute, but it is during the week, and I'm just getting used to my sleep schedule. So, I'd like to thank you all for watching. People who watch live, we appreciate that. And I'm sorry my camera's on. I just felt cute, I guess.
Hang on, Roy has something to say.
Huh?
I really hope you get this. You said that fucking cock breath emerald timed me out.
But anyway, thank you, Tempren, for joining us. I know you just got back for your trip and I timed it wrong, but I appreciate you coming in anyway and explaining things to us. Because
Yeah, no problem.
Yeah,
mean-
thanks for being here. It was really it was actually really nice.
it was very insightful, I think. And
Yeah, no problem.
definitely a second episode of mental health will happen, I reckon. But as for that, pizza? Huh?
I think he's talking to me.
How was the pizza, Tempren?
It was very good.
Right. But enough blabbering on, because I'm fucking sleepy. I'm the sweeper boy this week. And Tempren has to go back to his reformed rabbi ways. So
That's true.
I
Thank you
hope
for being a reformed Rabbi Bill Clinton.
I hope you have a good day, or night, or whenever you are listening to this, because fuck knows. And you know what? I hope you all kind of agree with our opinions. Well, I mean not Roy's, because don't agree with Roy. Just don't fucking agree with Roy ever. It's just not smart, and it'll probably get you a ban on my Discord. But we love all your faces, and fuck it, if you have anything you want to hear us chat shit about for 2 hours, 3 hours, leave a comment. And anything else, guys?
Just
That about sums it up for me at least.
just one last note. I want to reiterate: if you're having problems, reach out to someone. Don't just suffer in silence, because it's never gonna work.
Yeah, code Irish Nate for 10% off on BetterHelp.
Shut the fuck
God.
up.
I'm so sorry.
Fuck your name.
No, but yeah, definitely reach out, because reaching out helps. Even if you think you're reaching out for something stupid, it could save you, and it could save the people you love around you a great deal of pain. But
If they're truly your friends, they'll listen.
I mean, Ryan knew me like 2 weeks and he was keeping me company in a mental hospital, so. But anyway, lots of love from myself, and lots of love from Ryan, lots of love from Tempren, and lots of love from Cock Breath Roy, and lots of
The
love
band.
from Emerald, because you've heard us talk to Emerald, but he's in the chat, but I think we'll get him in an episode, you know. I think we'll make it strictly about Lizzo. No Roy.
Well, Roy can't be on that one.
Nathan Padilla, no. But anyway. We will
Please,
actually if we ever do music about it, if we ever do an episode about music, Emerald will be in it for sure. Because Emerald does have good music taste. But anyway, that's enough from us. This has been the Graveyard Shenanigans, and we've got to get back to work. Bye.
Peace.
Yeah.